Hello everyone, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful night. So The Simpsons, one of the most beloved animated series of all time, long running. I know there are conflicting reports about modern Simpsons among the fan base, including myself. I like classic Simpsons, but the games have had their highs and lows, and the two most beloved Simpsons games, I would argue, is the Simpsons game that came out in 2007, and then in the early 2000s was Simpsons Hit and Run. Now, getting these games is extremely difficult because they were never like ported or remastered. Thank God for emulation and stuff like that. But regardless, there have been a cult following of these games. Like this YouTuber, Reubs, was modernized in Simpsons Hit and Run for a passion project. You can't play this. This was simply done as a passion project because EA owns the rights to this, to the Simpsons games. And the reason we didn't get a Simpsons Hit and Run 2 has finally come to light, and we're going to read this article together and see why we never got this beloved game we never got a sequel to this beloved game. If you want to know what Simpsons Hit and Run was, it was basically a Simpsons GTA open world game where you would drive around and complete missions, and it had a very Simpsons-like story. Like, if you just take all the cutscenes from Simpsons Hit and Run, it plays out like a really good Simpsons episode. The Simpsons Hit and Run is one of the most beloved games in the early 2000s, if not of all time. A GTA-like game where you play as and interact with some of the most iconic characters in the TV history was a match made in heaven for fans and developer Radical Entertainment. So why didn't we get a Simpsons Hit and Run 2? In an interview with MinMax, members of the game development team finally answered that question the best they could. It turned out Radical Entertainment had been working on a sequel to the game after the success of the first. Which sounds great. Yeah, it was massively successful. The problem was Vivendi, the publishers of the game, didn't have the license anymore, so a new deal had to be made. EA earned the license after this, I believe. The Simpsons game came back with an offer for 5 games and an X amount of dollars for a really good deal, and Vivendi said no. Wait, what? So they came back for 5 games with an X amount of dollars, which shows incredible faith in developing these games, and you just say no? Like, there are a lot of developers and publishers who would kill for a deal like that. Holy crap, why would you say no? Former executive producer John Melcora, I'm just going to call him John, I apologize, I'm not good with last names, said after the success of Hit and Run. As for why Vivendi turned it down, John simply said, I don't know. Well, that sucks. The sequel would have included features like airships and planes to fly, towing, and more, which sounds amazing. Like, Simpsons Hit and Run was a rushed game. The final section of the game is basically a chase level between another random car as you deliver nuclear material to the UFO that's about to destroy Springfield. It was actually really cool, but at the same time, it was rushed, so that's why they couldn't flesh out the final mission, so they just had to cobble together anything. The reason I say it was cool was because the final scene has Grandpa kind of not dying, but dying in the process. It's just a really funny final cutscene, and that's why I loved it. The mission itself sucked, but the cutscene was great. It was sad because we had a ton of momentum, John said. There was no momentum lost between shipping of the game and the work being done on the sequel. So the developers were very excited. They were going to make something incredible based on what they learned from the first game. And again, it seems like everyone had faith in this project. 5 games with an X amount of dollars? Then why not do it? Designer Darren Everson said that there was never concern about not doing a sequel, so much that everyone at Radical Entertainment felt like this was going to become a regular franchise. Man, that would have been amazing. It was a no-brainer. It was like, well, of course, we're going to be doing this, Everson said. It was just disbelief, pure disbelief. So even they were shocked. They were just like, this game is a huge success. Fans and critics love it. It's doing sales-wise very well, so why aren't we doing a sequel and capitalizing on this? John then added, it was a 5-game deal for less money than I think Vivendi paid for the first game. So you were getting more money to make more games, and you had a 5-year, like, yeah, what? It's really confusing. Like, any publisher would kill for a deal like this. It was really cheap because the Simpsons, were really happy. So the people behind The Simpsons were very happy about the game that you shipped. What's the problem? He then said the former boss was just as confused as anyone when Vivendi didn't continue with the license. He was just like, I don't understand. I gave it to you on a silver platter. Why aren't you just saying yes and doing these games? John said, yeah, It's like, do you hate money? Or maybe he just didn't have faith in the team. There, like, as far as we can tell, there is no information about why they denied it. The only two reasons I can think of is one, money. They don't think that it's a profitable venture, that it'll eventually fail. And two, they have no faith in their team, even though they delivered a very good game for the conditions that it was on. Like, that's the only two reasons I can think of, because this just seems like free money that will print. This just seems like free money because Simpsons games, no matter if they're good or bad, tend to sell pretty well. Look at the Nintendo history with Bart's Nightmare. I can't remember, but there are a lot of like crappy Simpsons games on the NES and Super Nintendo. Yeah, they have a lot of nostalgia value to them, but they were crap. They were overly difficult for the sake of just being, a quick cash grab. But Simpsons Hit and Run and the Simpsons game were made with passion behind them. You can see from the games themselves. It was just very bizarre decision. I'll never understand it. Most people on the production level never understood it. Currently, EA owns the video game rights for The Simpsons, which it acquired in 2005. Really? They still own the rights? You would assume they would give it out to other people to make Simpsons games. It was 18 years the company has just put out one major console game, the Simpsons game, back in 2007. Yeah, this one right here, which I did an entire walkthrough for. It's a really good game. It's a semi-open Simpsons game, and it has a lot of great references, like the Land of Chocolate, and it's just a wholesome, very fun Simpsons game. I would say this is better than the Simpsons Hit and Run, mainly because it has a better presentation and graphical style, but I would also argue that this one wasn't rushed in production as opposed to the Simpsons game. Regardless, it's kind of really just shameful that we didn't get a Simpsons Hit and Run 2. I think this would actually be the best time to remaster these games. Maybe give it to Night Dive Studios and say, hey, they've been doing a lot of remasters, so maybe just give it to them and say, hey, you want to remaster the Simpsons Hit and Run? I think they would be perfect for this. And then if they do well, make a new one. I mean, we're never going to get that game that they were developing, so give it to someone else, someone who has passion for this stuff. It just hurts me because this could have been something great. It could have become a huge franchise within the Simpsons IP, and unfortunately we'll never get that. It sucks. Again, I played this several times. It's a brilliant game. Either way, tell me what you think in the comments below. I think this is just really dark news. I mean, again, it's not a solid answer, but at least we get an answer that the developers wanted to make a sequel, but the publisher simply said no for some reason. But yeah, that's it from me. Like, dislike, whatever you choose to do. That's it from me. Goodbye.